Hey guys, welcome back. It is your favorite game of the live, and I'm here with a special preview for you. I've got Armored Brigade 2, a preview version of it that I have been able to play and spend a little time with. If you've watched my channel, you've seen that I've also reviewed Armored Brigade 1, their first game in the series, and I really liked that game. It was very good. Excellent simulation type gameplay. Make sure you go check out that video if you haven't, and as always, hit that subscribe button down below. So what is Armored Brigade 2? Just in case you haven't played the first one, the second one is basically your Cold War gone hot. So that time period, the 60s to the 80s, 90-ish time frame with all the different vehicles and aircraft that can be used during that time frame. M60 Pattons versus the T-64s and all that good stuff. And taking place where the Soviets have decided they want some more living room, so they're invading into Europe. So one of the things that set Armor Brigade 1 apart was the fact that it's kind of a simulation type game, but they wanted that ease of access, that the ability for just anyone to get in there and be able to play the game. Because some games they get too simulation-esque and you get bogged down. You're like, I can't play this. But you don't want to go too far in the other direction either and make it too arcadey. You got to turn off your grognards, like yours truly here. I want depth and detail into my gameplay, which this game definitely has in spades. It is excellent. It has everything. I mean, hundreds of different types of vehicles from multiple different nations are all here in the game. So the big thing for Armor Brigade is the fact that it tries to simulate that command and control experience. So when you play a game like Command and Conquer or StarCraft in this RTS type setting, when you issue an order, you want it followed instantly. So you click. Think about those StarCraft players who count their clicks when they're playing the game. This is not like that. It's very much different. When you issue an order in Armor Brigade, you'll see a little timer next to it. And that's because it's not carried out instantly. Orders have to be passed down through the chain of command. So you have to think ahead as you're playing the game of what's going to happen and react accordingly. You don't just get an instant response from your units. You don't just issue the order and they immediately start just trucking across the field. There's a little bit of a time delay to that. And a neat aspect of the Armor Brigade series is the fact that you can actually put yourself into the gameplay. You have the option to click player unit. So basically, your commander, your essence, your avatar is on the field in the gameplay, and technically can get killed just like anyone else. That is an option that you can select before you start your scenario. But it is kind of cool to think that your personage is on the battlefield, giving the orders to all the different units. So that's what I mean when I talk about it being a simulation, that it tries to accurately depict how things work in a real battlefield. And this game, it much more reminds me of something like Combat Mission than it does a game like Command and Conquer or StarCraft. It leans much more heavily into that realistic military aspect, the types of weapons used, the missiles, the cannons that are fired, armor being able to deflect rounds, having to use the right equipment against the right adversary. So let's talk about a few of the things that I do like about this game. Command and control, obviously, I've already talked about. Advanced mechanisms is what they talk about, sharing tactical decision making. That's the whole delay in it, orders having to be passed down throughout the chain of command. I also like the mission generator. Right, I went into it a lot in the first video with Armor Brigade. I definitely looked into it again with Armor Brigade 2, and it's all still there. You have multiple different maps that you could choose from. And when I say map, I don't mean like this is the map that you'll be fighting on. I mean, it's a huge map, and you can select a piece of that map to conduct a battle on. And this is not their pre-made scenarios. I'm talking about if you generate your own mission, and you can pick anywhere on there. You can have some city in it. It could be fields, it could be mountains, it could be hills, it could be a combination of whatever. You can adjust the size of the battlefield that you want. So I have never seen an RTS game that gives this much freedom to the player when they are choosing where the battle is going to be located. All other RTSs have it to where you just select the map. Here, you actually get to pick where on the map you want that battle to take place. And it gives you so much freedom. Even moving it just a little bit can change the entire course of how the battle will play out, depending on the type of terrain that is available. On top of that, you get to choose what forces, not just what nations are in there, but what types of forces. So you can have armored brigades, infantry, mixed, so mechanized, or you can do what they call dynamic, which is where you basically pick and choose. I want a little bit of everything in your formation. Same thing when you pick your computer opponent. And yes, it does have multiplayer as well, but I don't do a lot of multiplayer. I do solitaire. But when you're picking your opponent, you can pick what type of division you're going after. So if you want to have an infantry division fighting an armored one, you can go that route. You can have whatever choices you want. You can adjust day, night, weather. All of this is left in your hands. Now, this is for the mission generator. Like I said, they do have a selection of pre-made missions, scenarios that you can choose to play from. And this one now has campaigns. Campaigns weren't available in the first Armored Brigade, but now Armored Brigade 2 does have, I believe it's 4 that are starting off where you get to play as the Americans, and you go through a linear set of scenarios that you will fight a course, right? A campaign, a full campaign. And that is nice to see included. I like to have that grand campaign experience to kind of see how my battles play out. So here's where I'm going to get into the kind of a sidebar when it comes to the game. This game, I said earlier, reminds me of Combat Mission. And there's something else that kind of correlates with that. This is very much a Grognard's type of game in that graphics aren't the thing that you're going for. Now, the graphics they're okay. They're serviceable. You can scroll in close and see the things like the tanks or the infantry, moving along. But generally, you're going to be fairly pulled back. You're going to be looking at unit symbols, NATO symbols or the like across the map, blue or red, just depending on what forces you're controlling. But one of the things that I noticed is that Armored Brigade 2 looks very much like Armored Brigade 1. It's not a sequel in that you would think like that with other games, right? So, God of War 1, God of War 2 looks better. It has ray tracing. It has this, it has that. I mentioned in the live playthrough that I'm going to post separately to this video that Red Dead Redemption, right? Love that game, cowboy game. First one looked good, but it's an older game, back in the 360 era. Red Dead Redemption 2 looks so much better. That's the sequel that you would anticipate seeing, right? That improvement in graphics. You don't have that here. You could have someone playing Armor Brigade 2 and someone else playing Armor Brigade 1. And if you're looking at both screens, you're probably not going to be able to tell what game they're playing. They look the same. And Combat Mission is like that. Combat Mission has multiple different games across multiple different eras and different conflicts, all that stuff. But they all use the same framework to do that. Armor Brigade is kind of going in that direction, that it's the same skeletal structure. You're not getting a different game, you're getting an improved game. So they have worked on some of the stuff, some of the gripes that people had with the first Armored Brigade. So things like the improved fire support is one of the things that they mentioned that they have reworked. Same with infantry and how they react in the battle. So the skeletal structure of the game has been tweaked and improved upon to make it a tighter and better experience. But don't come into this going, I want the neatest ray tracing. You're not coming to this game for that. Okay, that's not it. This is the Grognard's type games. What I'm trying to get across to you is that it's going to look like Armor Brigade 1, but it has been tweaked and it's been improved. The gameplay experience is tighter and more realistic than the first one. They made a good game, and now they've improved it. And honestly, I was thinking about it. I was like, could they have released this as an update or an expansion to the first one? And I can see why they probably decided to go in the direction of a new game, a sequel versus an expansion, because the expansion probably would have cost roughly the same, maybe a touch less, but roughly the same as doing the expansion route. But this way they can have all bunch new scenarios included, the campaigns being added to it. So you're getting a lot more gameplay than you had in the first one added here into the second one. So ultimately, like, who is Armor Brigade 2 for? It's for the fans of the first one. If you like the first one, you're gonna like the second one. There's no question about it. And I like the first one. First one was very, very, very good game. I've had a lot of fun with it, and I'm having a blast now with the second one. It's just been a great experience. The campaigns, the fights, the missions, they're all intense. In the one that I'm going to have a video playing, I've got a defensive mission where the United States forces were split. There was kind of a hill in the center, and it's just waves of Soviet forces coming down on top of them. BMPs, T-64s, infantry groups, tow missiles, stuff going everywhere. And I had to hold them back with my forces, and I had probably less than half the Soviet forces. But as you know, if you play games like this, it takes more than double the amount of forces to go on the attack. And I was able to pull it back. There at the end, I thought I was going to lose it because my entire right flank just crumbled. They came through with tanks, and I had nothing left to stop them. I had been kind of bad with some of my missile units, and the tanks came through and just literally blew my infantry apart. They hit me with indirect fire, just totaled the city. They were able to take control of it. But I did have a couple of not T60s, Pattons, M60s, up tucked to the side, and I was able to pull them out. I had three. The Soviets were able to nail one of them, and I brought them down and hit the flank of the Soviets as they were coming in. Those M60s, boom, 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 just tossing out shells left and right. They were able to stall the Soviet advance. So ultimately, I was able to hold two of the three objectives on the map. It was thrilling, just pounding, especially when my infantry are tucked into the city and they're just trying to hold, and you just see this rain of indirect fire coming in from the Soviets. And I'm like, oh my God, they're going to crush my guys. And you really feel it with that delay in the command structure. You couldn't just instantly react to the things that were happening. You had to plan ahead for it. And I got caught more than once with my pants down because I had tried to move missile teams into better positions so they could have a field of fire in the right directions. And they caught my teams before they had been able to relocate, and I had to fall them back and ultimately lost those teams. And those teams were holding back the armored vehicles, which is why they were able to push in as hard as they were. Really just tense scenarios. Excellent. Like I said, I'm going to have that video up separately so you can see the entire match and see how the game itself plays. So yeah, ultimately, Armor Brigade 2 is definitely a buy. I think it's going to be an easy purchase for anyone who's had fun with the first one. Really, we're coming up on the Christmas sale, so I wouldn't even say wait to get the second one instead of getting the first one. I would anticipate that the first one's going to go on sale, sometime around the Christmas season. Steam always does a bunch of sales around that time frame. If you can pick up Armor Brigade 1 on sale, it's still worth getting, especially since this doesn't release until 2025 on Steam. So you can, occupy your time with Armor Brigade 1 while you're waiting on the second one. And then by the time you finish up with one, the second one will be released, and you'll have whole new scenarios, whole new campaigns to play and try out with an improved system, something that they have tweaked and worked on those little, negative spots that people have had with the game. So they've improved it to give you that better experience in your tactical gameplay. And like I said, just to reiterate it again, just one more time, is that mission generator is just so good. It gives you so much freedom, so much choice when it comes to just creating your own mission that it's almost impossible to count the number of choices that you could have, the number of missions that you could come up with. There, the options are almost limitless with multiple huge maps that you can pick a chunk of that map to have a battle on. And it's just a huge choice there. If it was just the maps alone, that would give you untold replayability. But then when it comes into choosing what nations and what forces that you're bringing to battle, you really wouldn't fight the same battle twice ever if you're using the mission generator, which, like I said, is just massive amount of replayability for this game. And as an FYI, they do have a editor involved with it now. I haven't poked along too much at that because I don't want to fiddle with it. I'm afraid I'll mess something up. But there is an editor that you can use to adjust some of the stats. This wasn't in the first one, but it is in the second one, that you can adjust their speed or their range or line of sight, things like that. Like you can get into the nitty gritty of the individual units and make some custom changes if you want to do that. I haven't had a whole lot of experience with that. I didn't want to mess around too much, but I'm sure there are going to be some whizzes out there who can come up with some really interesting changes using that database editor. All right, that's going to be it for me. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. Make sure you check out Armored Brigade 2 when it does release. And like I said, I'm going to have a follow-on video where I've got the whole match laid out so you guys can see it live in action. All right, y'all take care. I'll catch you in the next one.